Hey, are you ready to turn your podcast into an authority engine and not just more content? Well, welcome to Influential Voices of Authority. This is the podcast for coaches, consultants, and experts who are ready to stop being the best kept secret in their niche and move into being that sought after go-to authority. I'm your host, Erik K. Johnson, podcast talent coach and media veteran. In every episode of this podcast, I sit down with industry leaders and visibility experts to uncover how they use their voice, their message, and their platforms to build trust, grow their audience, and attract premium clients. So if you're ready to turn your voice into your greatest asset, you're in the right place. Welcome to Influential Voices of Authority. You know, if you want to become that recognized authority in your space, if you want people seeking you out, trusting your advice, and more importantly, paying premium prices to work with you, then there's one thing you must understand, and it's this: generic content will never make you unforgettable. We live in a world that's drowning with information. If you're just sharing your 6 steps to success, ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other AI platforms can probably generate your 6 steps to success for me faster than you can. If it's just information alone can be copied and you're going to become obsolete. We're drowning in information. Your audience is overwhelmed and overloaded with podcasts and videos and posts and courses and newsletters and on and on and on. It's an endless stream of advice coming from every direction. And because of that, average content no longer gets you attention. Your average teaching no longer builds trust. Average expertise no longer stands out. So does that mean you need to get better? Does that mean that you need to be more important or know more than the next guy? No. What it means is today, if your message feels too broad or too generic or one size fits all, then people tune out. They tune out because your audience doesn't want more information. They want to connect and feel understood. It's not about information. It's about understanding their problem and their challenge. They want to believe that someone finally gets their struggle. I was on a coaching call the other day, and I was explaining this to a client and how they need to stop leaning into so much content on their podcast. Stop trying to teach the 6 steps to success or your formula or more content. If you're struggling to come up with content on your show, you're approaching it the wrong way. You need to show your prospective clients that you understand their problem, their struggle, their challenge better than they do. So when they go on and on for 5 minutes telling you what they're struggling with, and then you say, so basically you're saying A, B, and C, and you need X, Y, and Z. And they go, well, yeah, that's exactly it. They feel understood. They feel like they have that connection with you. And that's what's going to move them forward to doing business with you. When you show them you understand, you finally get their struggle. You understand their frustration, and you can help them solve their problem. Solve that big problem that's holding them back. Because if they believe you can understand their problem so clearly, then they must believe that you have the solution to it. You wouldn't understand the problem so clearly unless you knew how to solve it. Because the moment someone feels like, holy cow, this person understands exactly where I am, or they get what I'm going through, or this advice feels like it was made specifically for me. I feel like you're talking to me. Have you been reading my mail? Have you been reading my journal? You know what I'm going through. That's the moment that trust is created. And that trust builds authority. Stop leaning into trying to figure out more content, your 7th step to success to add to your formula, some new trick or gadget or strategy in the marketplace, and just show people that you understand what they're going through, because you'll build that trust and you'll build that authority. Authority is not built when people simply learn from you. They can get that information anywhere. Authority is built when people feel connected to you, when they feel seen by you, when they believe you understand them better than anybody else. I thought this was a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and I wanted to show people how much I knew, and I struggled for a long time to get clients until I pivoted and I stopped talking about the what and the how, and I started talking about the why, about how you're struggling to get clients, how you're really, really good at what you do, but nobody seems to know about it. Because I've been there and I've helped many people come from that and move into that position of authority. It's been a fantastic run. That's when you stop being another expert. That's when you stop competing on price. That's when you become the obvious choice. And better than that, that's when you become the only choice. When you stop trying to be the best in category and you move to being the only one in category, you separate yourself from everybody else. Back in the late 70s, there was a young woman who was a news anchor in Nashville, Tennessee. And in 79, she got her opportunity to move to Baltimore to be the morning anchor on a news show in Baltimore. And Baltimore's a pretty big television market compared to Nashville. Baltimore right outside of the Washington, D.C. area, and just really big. And that's when her star started to climb, and she moved her way up there at that television station and did really, really well. And that's when opportunity came knocking, and she got the opportunity to move to Chicago. Chicago's the number 3 biggest television market in the United States. And not only did she get to go to Chicago, she got to do the morning show on television in Chicago. And that show started taking off, so much so that in 1986, that show became syndicated. And she was on daytime television along with some big names like Phil Donahue and Geraldo Rivera and Sally Jesse Raphael. And she was fighting her way, trying to be bigger and better than they were. And it was neck and neck, and they were all fighting it out. And then one day, in the mid-90s, she decided she didn't want to do that tabloid television stuff anymore. She wanted to do her television show her way. She wanted to lean into talking about subjects that mattered to her: heart disease, weight loss, books that she loved, relationships, all of that stuff. And when she started doing that, she started separating herself from everybody else. They were all still doing the daytime tabloid, trashy drama TV. She started talking about subjects that really mattered to her. And that's when she separated herself from trying to be the best in category to be a category of one. And it was so much so that the name of the show changed from being the Oprah Winfrey Show to just being Oprah, because she became that brand that was different from everybody else. And that's what people with authority do. Experts who are winning right now understand that the future does not belong to those who simply teach more. It belongs to those who create deeper experiences, stronger connections, and more powerful relationships. Those who engage their audience, those who personalize the journey, those who help people feel guided instead of lectured to, those are the people that win. Stop trying to teach your 6 steps to success and wrap it in better context. I'm saying don't lean into your 6 steps to success, but teach it through a different filter. Find different context, because when your audience experiences your expertise in a way that feels personal, they don't just consume your content, they remember you, they trust you, they follow you. And more importantly, they eventually buy from you. And that's why I've invited Johnny Beirne on the show today. Johnny is fantastic. Johnny's showing experts how to create personalized AI-powered experiences that make their audience feel seen, understood, and supported in a whole new way. Johnny Beirne helps authors, coaches, trainers, and subject matter experts deliver personalized transformation at scale. For years, Johnny worked with experts across 24 countries, helping them package their knowledge into online courses and professional learning experiences. You've seen so many course experts out there. Well, again and again and again, Johnny saw the same challenge. Brilliant expertise trapped inside delivery models that just didn't scale. They couldn't get their hands on enough clients. Courses were static. Cohorts required endless live calls. Completion rates were inconsistent and dismal, probably. Results depended too heavily on constant hands-on implementation. And the problem wasn't the quality of the content, just like you. You have great content, you have great knowledge. That's not the problem. The problem was the structure of the delivery, how the information got into the hands of the people who needed it and how it was made to connect. As the education landscape started to evolve, learners began to expect more than just information. They wanted relevance. They wanted feedback. They wanted personalization and connection. They wanted learning experience that adapted to them. So that's when Johnny pivoted. He now specializes in helping experts build AI-guided learning systems that move beyond the one-size-fits-all program. Through his adaptive authority approach, he works with educators to transform their intellectual property into intelligent, responsive learning pathways that guide each student individually without increasing delivery hours or burnout. Johnny believes the future of expertise is not more content, it's smarter delivery. And he committed to helping forward-thinking experts lead that shift rather than struggle to keep up with it. So enjoy my conversation with Johnny Beirne. Johnny, it's great to see you. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you very much, Erik. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So great to see you again. Tell me how you got into building apps. You have such a varied background. What brought you into app development?
Yeah, so I've been an educator and a trainer, coach, consultant, you name it, for, maybe 20 years now. And over a decade ago, I started to create online courses. And in the last couple of years, particularly with AI, a lot of us have noticed that completion rates, engagement rates, they're all well down, sales are down. People are going to AI now for immediate answers rather than buying and sitting through typically a video-based course. So with that in mind, I started to build education-based apps for myself where people could get instant responses from a digital version of me, so to speak. Not the cloned avatar video type, but definitely the content. And like with platforms like Lovable and Replit and a few others, it's very easy now to take all your intellectual property and put it into a very engaging, guided learning experience where people really get results and get results fast and get advice very fast without going to the likes of ChatGPT and getting a almost Wikipedia type response. So that's how I got into it in a nutshell, really.
So before you were helping people launch courses, now you're kind of taking that content and putting it inside the app. How is that changing completion rates and why do you think that's happening?
Yeah, because engagement is higher because it's a more engaging experience. So there's a couple of things in there. The big one is we create typically a course and it's one size fits all. Here are a bunch of videos, go and watch them. I'm not really sure where you're coming from as a student necessarily, or for whatever I know, I think everybody's the same, so to speak, within reason. So typically our courses tend to be a one size fits all. Whereas with an app, I lead with an assessment that you can build into your app, which is a very popular and successful strategy these days to assess people where they are within your app. And then the guided learning is based on where they're at, because you can do that with AI. So if you score low, then the journey, the guided learning is all related back to that score. In other words, you're not intimidating with people with strategies that are too advanced for where they're at, and you're not boring people who are further on than uh, other people. You're not boring them to death with basics. So that's why engagement is a lot higher. It's a lot more, it's instant, really. And like with over 800 million people using ChatGPT, the expectation now is for instant responses as opposed to I'll ask a question within the course, wait for that email notification to go to my trainer and wait for them to reply. Uh, so the engagement is a lot higher for that reason. You can hold people accountable within the app. You can customize the app to whatever makes sense for your students in terms of engagement, accountability, all that good stuff. So all of those things combined make it a lot more engaging than your generic watch a bunch of videos, do some homework, which people don't want homework. They want actionable advice. So all those reasons combined.
So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure where you get to decide where the course takes you rather than a prescriptive course that just walks you module to module to module.
Yeah, I mean, there would be a framework that you're going to take people through, and everybody has access to the same intellectual property. Everybody
Yeah.
has access to your digital mind and everything that you put into the course. But as you rightly say, they are presented with it in a way that matches where they're at and with their speed of execution too. But there is structure for sure. I mean, the people that I'm building AI powered online courses with now still use the proven framework that has had success for their clients for decades. So the framework is still in there. It's just how it's delivered is, as you say, choose your own journey. It's delivered based on your assessment results, if you want to use that, which I recommend, and also what you ask. Okay, so if you ask a particular question, like people love to be able to ask, how does this apply to me? I'm sure with your advice and coaching and great content, when people are going through it, we often come up with the question, but how does it apply to me? So the ability to put in a prompt into an AI guided course, even putting in how does this apply to me? And once you put up your bio and you do the assessment, the AI guided and powered course knows about the student and therefore can give a very applicable answer to the prompt.
So are you saying that the app itself is also powered by AI? So as I'm going through the guided learning, AI is also answering questions in there for me?
Yeah, so no. And this is where people kind of generalize, I guess, with the term AI.
Okay.
It's AI powered, where it's AI powered interaction with your content, not AI powered in terms of how ChatGPT goes out onto the internet and finds what it finds and gives you back a
Yes.
response. It's AI
Okay.
powered. So, for example, if you do an assessment and you get 3%, okay, then you're going to get a very different response, AI powered, from my content because you scored 3% versus 80%.
Meaning the path that I'm going to take is going to be much different for the 3% than the path the 80% person is going to take.
Exactly. But the content that the AI is talking to, let's say, and giving responses is all your content. It's
Yes,
all the
got it.
trainer's content. It's not going out to the big bad world of the internet and coming back with, and it avoids hallucination and AI slop, as it's called. So it's AI powered, but not, let's say, Gemini or ChatGPT powered. It's only the AI interacting with the content you put into the course and then delivering it to the student based on their assessment, if you use an assessment, or based on their prompt.
Can you give me an example of someone that took their course from a traditional video module based course, moved it over to an app platform like you're describing, and had some really big success with it?
Yeah, so the ones I'm building at the moment, because I've only got into it. I mean, the platforms have only become, I guess, affordable and intuitive to a large degree, probably in the last 12 to 18 months. So the students I'm working with are, pre-launch. But having said that, they're really, really excited about the possibility of taking a newsletter. So one client, Henry, has a weekly newsletter with real gold in the newsletter. He's got a number one Amazon best-selling book. We put that into the app as well. And then he didn't have a framework per se because a lot of his content is a lot of his coaching is one-to-one. So he reacts to the person's situation with his experience. That's what he wants to deliver with the app. So he's looking to charge 5,000 a year for access to the app and 10,000 for VIP access, which gives you even more. So we're nearly there in getting it built, but he's quite excited about the opportunity where he didn't have to create an online course. He didn't have to turn his book into videos. I would suggest people would have some videos, so it's not a completely faceless app per se, or a faceless AI. So we still encourage keeping that human connection, but he's going to make one video per pillar in his framework, so 5 in total. More or less, congratulations for getting to this next pillar. Here's what we're going to cover, and kind of off you go, so to speak. But a couple of people very, very excited. I know there's people using various platforms like CoachFox, Buddy Pro, and Delphi, like Arnold Schwarzenegger's on Delphi, and you can get it. I won't do the accent, but you can get. You can get a training advice in Arnold's voice by interacting. They're a slightly different offering than what I'm offering. I'm not necessarily trying to compete with them. I help people build their own to have just a little bit more control. But there's people on those platforms doing really, really well, whether it's as a lead generator or as a paid product. Dozens and dozens of case studies on any of those platforms as well, proving that this new model works.
When you put your guided learning inside of an app like this, what does that do for your influence and your authority as a coach?
Yeah, so what it allows people to do is try before they buy without having to watch a ton of stuff. Okay, so try before you buy is what it used to be, at least, was a lead magnet, a PDF, a challenge, a mini course, etc. All still, relatively great. But what this allows in terms of authority is give people a little bit of free access to the app, and they put in the prompts, and they start to get hyper personalized advice, and that is really, really powerful for building authority. When they're interacting and asking their specific questions with regard to the pain that you remove with your content and your course and your AI powered course, they very quickly get hyper personalized responses and go, wow, this is really good advice based on where I'm at. Because some people watch the free stuff and they go, nah, not sure if it's for me. But if you can interact with it with no huge, major build for the coach, then it's super in building authority.
Yeah, I can understand where if your free content inside of your app really helped the user get clarity on their problem, so they really understood the problem that they're facing and the consequences that it's causing, and demonstrating the belief that you as the expert really understand their problem, that could lead them into the paid portion of the app to find the solution to that problem and have you guide them down the road to that solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can ask them about the consequences, and you can do a assessment or a little mini quiz, whatever it is, and let them interact with that and get a result. And then based on the result, you can let them take 1 or 2 more steps based on the result. Like, there's great quiz and assessment platforms out there, but they stop short of providing the next level of advice. Yes, you can put advice based on their result on the results page, but you can't let them. It's back to this powerful question that people love to be able to ask. How does it apply to me? So if I'm going through your app and I'm going through the part that you, let's say, allow some free access, and then you're guiding me towards how a podcast, for example, can help you build authority, I'd love to be able to ask in my specific. Maybe it's because I'm in Ireland, let's say, or maybe it's because I do what I do, or maybe I just want to ask, but how does it apply to me? And getting that, hey, Johnny, it applies to you as follows. And you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So you're getting the chat GPT experience, which people love, that instant response. However, it's even better because it's hyper personalized and it's coming from an authority that you trust.
And it's all based around your platform and your guided learning, which is great. When coaches go to use this in their business, what's the biggest challenge they face when they come to you and they're like, Johnny, it sounds great, but I struggle with this piece right here. What would that be?
Yeah, it's typically they think it's going to take almost as much time as recording a course, which it doesn't. They are concerned about guardrails, security, backup. Um, is there a disconnect between AI me, and how is that managed and stuff like that? So from a time point of view, you're talking about hours, not days or weeks, because of the platforms that we use like Lovable or Replit or Claude or any of these great tools. So it's not necessarily about the technology. There's a bit of a fear of the unknown. There's a bit of a fear of, will people pay for it? Will they not expect to see me on video? Will they not expect to hear my voice? The answer to those questions is typically no, or not to the extent that they might think. I do encourage, as I mentioned, a couple of videos and even some audio downloads if your material lends itself to audio downloads. So, and then is it super technical and expensive to maintain? It isn't. It's, if you're using, let's say, Lovable, it's $25 a month. It might run into 100 or two a month during the time you're building it. But once the features are built, you're only paying to have it hosted, not to use it. So you only use
how much upkeep is there once you get it launched? How much do you have to go in and upkeep, update, and that sort of thing?
It depends on the changing nature of your content. If you're teaching something like AI, you're probably in there day and night because of the changing nature of that content. But if we look at what you're a powerhouse in doing, which is in, growing authority through podcasting and guesting and having your own, then the strategies for the most part are probably pretty solid over the last couple of years. Okay, the technology has changed slightly and stuff like that, but for the most part, what you've been teaching and what you're an expert in doing hasn't changed significantly. Is that fair?
Yes. Yep. It's the process is typically the same.
Yeah, but you probably add a couple of things every now and again to keep it current. It's the same with sales. I mean, sales pretty much, a powerful sales strategy it probably hasn't changed for decades. The channels and the, let's say, the marketing channels and different things like that have changed. But there are some topics where the core hasn't changed. So
Right.
therefore, the maintenance of that is pretty small. Now, what you can do is you can say, I've got this new insight into my expertise. Maybe it was based on a conversation. Maybe it just came to you in a dream. Who knows? So you basically turn on the microphone and you just walk around the room as if you're giving a speech at the World Economic Forum, and you're really kind of delivering this new insight, and you get it all transcribed with AI, and you might ask AI to expand on it a little bit, but keeping your tone, voice, and personality consistent, and you drop that into the app, and all your students, including new ones and old ones, will have now got access to these new insights. Maybe 10 years ago you thought X was the way to go, and now it's the other way. Then you just go in and you switch things up a little bit with fresh content. Typically, unless the target's moving on an hourly basis, typically is very little maintenance.
Do you see the app and the paid version of the app leading to a higher end offer, like a premium sort of offer?
Yeah, so people do use it for various things as a free lead magnet. Try before you buy, engage with my content, get personalized advice, and maybe you can prompt it a couple of times a day. And then you run out of prompts like some of the AI models, and you come back the next day and you can still use it for free. But then you'd hope that some people would rather just upgrade rather than being shut out after a couple of prompts. So you can use it as a lead magnet with the option inside the app for people to buy credits to use it even more or to upgrade to a monthly subscription. And then some people are going straight from interact with the app for free, and then they're presented with a higher ticket offer. It might be app to masterclass, webinar, whatever you want to call it these days. And then in the webinar slash masterclass, that's where the higher ticket might be presented. Or you
So
could present within the app.
you might take them there to moving into a one-on-one coaching situation or a high-end mastermind or something like that.
Yeah, or cohort group driven or one to one, or they
Yeah.
could apply. You see, you can get selling signals or usage signals from within your app. So let's say it's free. You can get a leaderboard in your app where it shows you of the 50. Like I've got a client who has 570 people interacting with the free element of the bigger AI app. And she can see a leaderboard like Johnny's in every day, Eric's in every day, Mary's in once a week. Some people haven't engaged at all. But the people who are getting it are using it a lot. They can be presented with a little pop-up within the app once a week. Hey, you're getting a lot from the app. Do you want to jump on a call? Do you want to apply to our next cohort? So there's ways of presenting a hyper-personalized version of the offer. It's the same offer, but how it's presented is hyper personalized within your app as well. So people use it for upsell for sure.
How do we know if our content is ready for an app?
If people are already paying you for your expertise, it's ready.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's just a different delivery mechanism. Some people have a podcast, some people have a course, some people write a book, some people have all of the above. This is just, it's basically evolution in the education space. There will come a time pretty soon is where's your app, right? It's like years ago, where's your website? Or if you're a real authority, where's your book, right? How come you haven't written a book? How come you don't have a podcast? How come you don't have a YouTube channel? We don't need all of those, but if you're going to look at monetizing your expertise in a quote unquote somewhat passive way, and it is pretty passive to be honest, then an app is the way to go. And if you're already, as I say, selling your expertise, it's just a different delivery mechanism. And in the way the world is moving, I believe it will be expected. If you're through authority in your space, it will be expected. And if you don't have it, it's like, will AI replace me? No, but people using AI will replace you. And people are like, oh, how can I be an expert and compete with ChatGPT? Because of AI slop and hallucination. It's basically just gone out onto the internet. If you have built a certain amount of there's no AI doesn't have experience, it just has information and has very little emotion. So if any, unless it depends on the prompts you put in. So, there is human connection is still pretty strong. If they've seen you speak, they've read your book, you've seen you on a podcast, they heard your voice, see the color of your eyes in a video, that human connection is that, yeah, I'd rather interact with that and pay than spend a day trying to get the right response out of something like ChatGPT.
Yeah, the AI doesn't have your perspective and your opinion, which is that human element you're talking about that you can add into your app that going on to ChatGPT isn't going to give you, and you can really make it that with that personal touch.
Yeah, and you can pre-prompt your app as well for conversation starters and get the creative juices flowing. I mean, how often have we gone into ChatGPT and put in a prompt and like if you put in a prompt and you get a response in say ChatGPT and then you put in this is cringe, you'll get a far better response. And you're like, why didn't I get that in the first place? Or if you put in, is this the best you can come up with? And they go, it apologizes and gives you something better. And you're like, I know it's down to your prompts, but why didn't you give me the best you could come up with straight away? Whereas you will give the best advice you have based on your experience, which is a lot. So people don't have to worry about whether it's the best or not. It is the best you have, and you're not afraid to share it.
Yeah, the more you taunt Chat GPT and slap it around, the better the better content it gives you. If you're
Yeah.
pleased and thank you and you're very polite with it, it gives you pretty passive information, which is
Yeah,
pretty interesting as you're dealing with it.
it's almost too polite and has the rosy colored glasses on all the time.
Yes,
And the other thing that I love to do is in the AI powered app that I'm doing with clients is build in accountability. People will pay for accountability even more than education because to
absolutely.
know what not to do is not to know. So I buy $1,000 course and I have all the info, but I haven't executed, so I might as well not have bought it. So what I'm encouraging, and I've built it into my own app, is do an assessment and do one every week, or at least every 2 weeks or month, let's say, and record the results of the assessment, which the app does, and the app will compare the results. So if you're going backwards, you really need help. If you're improving, you can see that visually within the app. And if you're going backwards, your coach can intervene and say, "Hey, Johnny, I see your 30-day, your second or your most recent 30-day assessment or 7-day assessment," and you might get alert within the app to your email to say, "Here's 3 students that are actually going backwards instead of moving forwards." So you can build in a lot of automated alerts to support your clients even more. But the fact that they can hold themselves accountable by saying, "I'm going to do this by Friday," and also do an assessment. I mean, look, you can't make them do assessments, but the fact that a simple assessment is there every week for them to record their progress and see how they're doing is very, very powerful. Versus you can't even do that with ChatGPT.
Let's talk a little bit about your authority because you've pivoted quite a few times in your journey from teaching courses to teaching presentation skills and uh, presentation software and that sort of thing, and now into this AI powered guided learning within an app. With each of these pivots, what's been the challenge for you building your authority in those spaces as you've pivoted?
Yeah, sure. And they're all connected. I suppose on the face of it, it mightn't seem like it. So I've been training, as I mentioned, since the 90s. And then I moved it online to scale. And a lot of people were moving online. The presentation transformation stuff where I show people how to use free software. And if you're listening, then I would encourage you to pop over to Erik's YouTube channel. But you can press a button and bring in the slides without having to say, hold on, let's share my screen. But the reason I was doing that was to deliver better webinars to sell my courses. And then people were like, particularly during COVID, how do you do that? I'm stuck at home. I need to look as professional as possible. How do you bring in the slides without having to say, hold on, let's share my screen? So I'm like, there's free software called OBS and a little switch called a Stream Deck. And you press a button and the slides appear. And then you press another one and it goes to slides only. And you can make yourself a little bit smaller. I was doing a bit of cropping lately, so you have to know where your green screen disappears and appears. So that's the connection with that. And then teaching people how to create courses. This is the next iteration of that. And that's how they're all connected. The pivoting, you just need to ideally, in your messaging and your marketing, avoid people thinking that you're jumping on the next trend. Okay, and that you're a jack of all trades and a master of none. And I know some experts out there now, one or two that are household names that I won't mention, but they're definitely, it's all about AI, and it's such a move from what they used to do. And good for them, I guess. So the pivoting, I think if people are pivoting, they just need to be mindful of not coming across of a jack of all trades, and that there's some common thread running through why they're now doing what they're doing, which isn't that far removed from helping people with courses and presenting. And that's what I would say, anybody considering pivoting. The challenge is, of course, being perceived as you are jumping on the next trend and the next, what's the word I'm looking for? Not trend, fad. So if people think that, I guess it can be difficult to manage. I was conscious of that, but at the end of the day, people pivot all the time too. But that was the biggest challenge, just maybe me internally concerned about what people might think.
How do you get yourself in front of prospective buyers that don't know who you are yet?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I actually do a lot of calls in terms of literally just finding my ideal client and calling them up and learning from their reservations and improving on answering those reservations in the next call. I have and continue now and again to run paid ad campaigns, get people to an assessment where they answer a couple of simple questions to give them personalized advice in a matter of minutes, and then lead them into interacting with the app. But getting in front of people, being on podcasts is always a great one, of course, where the podcast is going out to people who fit in terms of your ideal client. But networking, I'm in some masterminds. This is how you and I met, Erik. So I'm in some free and some paid joint venture masterminds, and they're really great as well. So a combination of different things. Thankfully, some referrals as well. And when I started to pivot into building apps, I went back out to authorities, particularly best-selling authors, and I said, hey, you've got a book there that's probably not making you any money anymore. And I noticed, or I couldn't find an online course. Would you consider dropping the book into your own app and creating a guided learning experience from that wonderful intellectual property? And that's a compelling proposition to a best-selling author whose book isn't really selling anymore, and they don't have the desire or the time necessarily to create a curriculum in the traditional sense, to make a bunch of videos and all that. So putting together a compelling proposition and traditional outreach with that proposition still works and works quite well.
I love that. Selling through people, through partners, referrals, and then one-on-one conversations with people. Conversations moves people to action. I love it. You had a podcast in one of the previous iterations of your business. Tell me how you used that podcast to grow your business.
Yeah, so I had the Webinar Wealth podcast where I would interview great people who did a lot of webinars, and they would, basically, share that podcast interview. And typically, if they were in the webinar space, but not necessarily in the online presentation space, so your offer, your slide design, your close, your opening, confidence on camera, all of those things are great for having a webinar that converts. So by engaging with those type of experts, it is an opportunity to have a conversation before or after the interview where they say to you, and what do you do? And I said, well, I help people, bring in slides effortlessly, and sometimes they can address the elephant in the room if they wish, So there's different ways of doing that. And that in turn sparked up great relationships and conversations. Some of the guests might say, hey, I'd love to be able to do that because my wheelhouse is slide design, but I have no idea how to do what you're doing, without even breaking eye contact. So the guests can become either referring partners or clients on the spot. And sharing the podcast with their audience builds up authority as well.
That's great. Down your path here as you're moving into this AI powered guided learning within the apps, what's next for Johnny Beirne?
Yeah, I really would love to get a lot of bestsellers, books that deserve to be turned into a guided learning experience where the author might think, now my time has passed, or in terms of the book or anything like that. Or else they just think it's just too technical, too expensive, and too time consuming. So for me, I really want to, get great books that have got massive results for people just from reading them. Imagine if there were an interactive guided learning experience. So that would be one niche that I'm focusing on for 2026. Podcast hosts as well. If you think of all the great conversations that you've had, now if you get advice from the guest, that's another conversation about who owns that intellectual property, and it would be the guest in that case. But if you have episodes where you can come up with an arrangement, but you can put the podcast interviews into a guided learning experience, even to reference the guest. If you've done solo episodes, then of course it's all your IP. So there's a couple of great expert niches: authors, podcast hosts, active bloggers who are just hours away from a new monthly recurring revenue where their clients and students gets a very hyper personalized guided learning experience.
Do you have resources on your website or something like that where we can go get started, like learn more about this and start down that path to determine if this AI powered guided learning app is the right thing for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a free assessment. You're basically aware of the strategy now from this interview, which is totally fine, but you get to experience it for yourself for everybody listening, is to take a simple assessment. And based on your answers, you will get some advice on if or not whether you should have an AI guided learning experience, and then how to get started. So even simple questions like, if you have an online course, how many hours a week do you spend doing repetitive tasks like answering the same questions over and over? And if that's a couple of hours a month or a couple of hours a week in some cases, that can be worth thousands of dollars a month just in not giving up that time anymore doing repetitive tasks. So a couple of simple questions, and based on your answers, you get some guided, personalized advice. So you can experience what we've talked about at johnnybeirne.com/Erik. That's ERIK, as all your listeners will know. But johnnybeirne.com/Erik, and you can experience that firsthand for yourself.
Yeah, and Beirne is Beirne as well.
Yeah.
And that link's in the show notes. You can grab it there as well. Johnny, it's been fantastic seeing you again. Thanks for taking some time to share this great info with us, and I hope we do it again soon.
Thanks a million, Erik. I'll see you soon.
Oh, wasn't Johnny fantastic? I love having Johnny Beirne on the show. Make sure you get your hands on that free assessment he has to see if you should have an app like he discussed, that interactive sort of thing. You can take the assessment for free. You can find it at johnnybeirne.com/Erik. Now, make sure you spell Beirne the right way. It's Beirne. Johnny is Johnnny. Beirne is Beirne/Erik. And make sure you spell Erik with a K, Erik. You can find that link in the show notes, makes it super easy for you. Get that assessment there and find out if you're ready for an app, just like Johnny described. If you're ready to take your podcast to a whole new level, let me help you out. I have this amazing podcast audit. And I say it's amazing because it's amazing for you, the transformation that people get when they go through it. I listen to your podcast to find your authority gaps because you've already published all these episodes. Why isn't it bringing you more leads? Why isn't it bringing you more sales conversations? Why aren't you being seen as the authority in your niche? Well, just publishing episodes consistently isn't going to create your authority. Your intentional leadership does. So if you're ready to turn your podcast into an authority engine and not just more content, let's move you from being the best kept secret to being that sought after go-to authority in your niche. Get your hands on my podcast authority audit. All right. Get over and get your podcast audit. We're going to find the authority gaps in your show. If you go to podcasttalentcoach.com/coaching, you can click the button right there, apply to have a chat with me. I'll take a look at your show and see if I think that I can help you become the authority you deserve to be. We're going to uncover your authority positioning problem. We're going to develop your plan to help you succeed. And then we're going to see how I can help and support you to achieve those podcast goals. Get your podcast audit over at podcasttalentcoach.com/coaching. I must tell you, it's not a free opportunity. I'm diving into your podcast. I'm going to listen to your show. I'm going to take great notes of your show. Then you and I are going to set up a call where we're going to go over those notes and all of that feedback to help you close the authority gap that you have. It's not a free opportunity because I'm giving you hours of my time, and we're going to get you to where you need to be. But it is very powerful, and you're going to find it at podcasttalentcoach.com/coaching. Thanks for being here this week. On the next episode, we are going to talk with Allison Lane. She helps experts step into visibility, own their credibility, and become trusted authorities in their niche that their audience is already looking for. That's next time with Allison Lane. Until then, step into your authority, and we'll see you next time.